This video is brought to you by YTAndrewPaul Tech Repairs. If you have a console, laptop, computer or Macbook in need of repair in the UK or the EU, then have a look in the description below this video for details on how to contact us in order to organise your repair. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to today's video, and today we are going to take a look at a couple of issues that sometimes people have when reformatting their Xbox hard drives or upgrading them, and we're going to sort of do these little troubleshooting series as and when we come across them, because going through the bigger formatting, preparing new hard disk tutorial we have on the channel, if you haven't seen that and you're interested in that, then have a look in the description, the link will be in there below. What sort of tends to happen is there's one or two sort of really common little things that people tend to fall up on. So I figured that as and when I sort of do them and I come across them, I'll sort of document the steps in how to get around the most common ones. And this is one that a couple of people have sort of come across, is that once they've upgraded their hard drive or they've reformatted it, they're just getting a black screen. So the software procedure seems to go through okay, but then they're just left at this black screen and nothing turns up. So we're actually doing some video capture today, and the video capture you have now, although it looks a black screen, is actually an Xbox One in operation. And essentially what we're going to do is show you the difference between a black screen of death and what these machines are doing. Now, commonly you tend to find that this happens when you have your Xbox configured for instant on. So I would imagine most people probably have it on the energy saving, and that's where you power the machine up, you see the green Xbox One intro, it sits there for 30 seconds or so, and then it loads into the dashboard. So that's the energy saving mode, that's the typical default mode that most Xboxes will be in. But some people prefer the instant on, because these things do take a while to boot, so I can certainly see why some people do it. And basically that's the one where you hit the button and boom, you're straight back into where you left off from. Now, what can happen if you have an Xbox with a hard disk that fails whilst it's in that mode, or you decide you're going to upgrade the internal drive and you put your new drive in and you re-upgrade everything, you find that when it boots, it just boots to a black screen. You don't get anything. Now, that's typically because there are some persistent settings, some persistent profile settings, some persistent system settings which reside in flash and not on the hard disk. So what happens is that your Xbox boots from flash, it hands over to the hard disk, but there's nothing on your hard disk anymore because it's gone. So the things it's looking for are gone. So essentially what's happened is you've got a really sort of basic bare bones system on the hard disk, but it's not what your particular Xbox is looking for. So what happens is it just doesn't boot to anything. Now, more commonly than not, if you followed the tutorial that I've linked in the description, what will happen is that more often than not, what I actually try to do is put the OSE1 files on the system update partition. That will then hopefully build once you power the machine up. Now, so 50% of the time it'll do that. The other 50% of the time you'll have to use the recovery USB stick. Again, we talk you through that on the tutorial as well, to actually kick the thing up the backside to get it to build. Now, what will happen is, more often than not, if you've got it in instant on, you're going to find that your machine's probably going to do this. So what do? So sometimes, of course, like I say, you know, your machine may very well boot into that software update mode. It'll go through, it may leave you here. Other times it'll just come to this. So it kind of looks a little bit like a black screen of death. It looks a little bit like a failed hard disk, as in you're not even getting anything. So but there is a good way to find out whether you've got a black screen of death or whether you've got this particular problem. And the way to do that is to sync a controller, or attempt to sync a controller to the system. So in this particular case, I have my Xbox One controller synced to this machine. The Xbox light is on and solid white on the controller, so I know this controller is synced and is paired to the system. And what I'm then going to do is, if you follow the other tutorial to create the OSE1 recovery media, or the steps on xbox.com for the same thing, because it teaches you the exact same way, what you're going to do is you're going to take your USB stick and you're going to put it into the front side USB port on the older ones. Aha! We get an external media storage ready prompt. So what we have here is an Xbox that has booted into its dashboard, but because it no longer has anything on the dashboard it's expecting to see, that dashboard is blank, hence we don't see anything. So how the hell do you get out of this? Okay, so to recover your Xbox from this particular scenario isn't all that difficult. So what you can do is leave the USB key in the side of the machine. If you do have some trouble getting this thing to boot next, then do remove the power for a couple of seconds and reapply it. So what we're going to do now is we have the power plugged into our Xbox. Our Xbox is powered off. The OSU1 recovery media USB key is in the front left hand port. And what we're going to do is we are going to press and hold the sync and eject buttons. We're going to tap the power button and we're going to hear a succession of beeps. So we're going to tap the power button and then we're going to keep eject and sync held. So we're keeping eject and sync held here. That was the first power up tone. We hear a second, keep it held. We hear the third, and now we're releasing. So what happens is and then you'll get a fourth power up tone, which you may have just heard off camera there, maybe. And your Xbox will go through and actually reinstall the update. Now, if your machine hasn't gone through this process, allow it to do so. If your machine has, then it won't hurt just to let it go through again. Because sometimes this will be enough to kick it up the backside. If not, we'll show you what to do with it next. So if you are in the scenario where your Xbox is on that sort of black screen, but you can sync controllers, and then once your controller's synced and you try and insert the OSU1 recovery media, you do get that external devices ready pop up, then this should fix your issue. So what we're going to do is, as we've seen there, we've booted our machine to recovery. Now, we've done that in a slightly different way to what you may have normally done, in as much as we've kept the button combination held for a while there. So what happens is we press and hold sync and eject, we tap the power button, we hear one power up tone. We continue to keep the sync and eject buttons held. Another 5 to 7 seconds later you'll hear a secondary power up tone. And basically that is the system acknowledging the fact that there is a recovery media available to it and it has elected to boot from it, i.e. your OSU1 recovery media is good and it's happy to boot from it. By pressing and holding it, by continuing to keep the eject and sync buttons held and hearing the third power up tone, what you're actually doing is bypassing the Xbox's internal recovery mode and actually forcing it to boot from the USB media and reinstall the OS. So it's slightly different from the older dashboards back in the day, because what actually happened is Microsoft elected to place a OSU recovery environment within the actual Xbox firmware itself, which is quite nice. So if you do run into issues, you can actually attempt to boot the Xbox to its own built-in recovery mode, if you like, and that can sort of alleviate a lot of issues. Now what happens is, of course, if you can't get to that because your hard disk is corrupt or those files aren't present, then obviously you've got a bit of an issue. So by continuing to hold the eject and the eject and sync buttons there, what actually happens is, when you hear the third beep, you've elected to bypass the inbuilt recovery environment and go straight to the recovery mode environment on the USB. Once you've done that, it actually elects to completely reinstall the software. So if you actually released sync and eject after the second power up tone, it would boot to the internal recovery environment. Now from there you'll get an option with 4 screens. You will get an option either to reset the Xbox and keep your files, reset the Xbox and delete everything, perform an offline system update, reboot the Xbox, or power it off, essentially. By continuing to press and hold the button, essentially we skip those 4 options and we just elect to completely reinstall the OS from scratch, which is what we're doing. So sometimes this will repair the issue, this will recover your machine to the fact where you can use it. Now what you may find is, and this varies from console to console, whether it's because they're on different software revisions or whatnot, I don't know, but essentially what will happen is a selection of things. So you may find that once this goes through, your Xbox recovers and seems to be perfectly normal again. If that's you, congratulations. You may find that you will see some artifacts on screen and others. Now, by artifacts I actually mean, you know, logos, icons. Maybe you'll see bits of the dashboard, like where the tiles are, but they might have slightly weird wonky names that you don't recognise. You may find that you've got tiles which would normally have images in, with no images present. Some of the system settings menus may have slightly weird names on there. Stuff like that. It just looks a little bit odd. If that's you, don't panic. Likewise, you may just find yourself back at the black screen. Again, if that's you, don't panic. But we do need to make sure that this software update process is going through and is going through successfully. And that is why I say to you, no matter what stage you're at or what you see on your screen, this is an important step. Even if it's gone through and it's built, don't skip trying to reinstall it like we're doing here. It's an important part of the step to ensure we have a good base image on the Xbox to work with. Now essentially, of course, you've reset your Xbox. Now whether that's because you've upgraded your hard disk or you've formatted your existing hard disk in place, regardless, there's no data on the hard disk there anymore that you could possibly find useful, because it simply isn't there. So anything that your Xbox is trying to reference has gone, which is why it's acting up slightly strangely. So essentially what we're going to do once this is pulled through, if we see anything less than what we're expecting, i.e. a perfectly functional dashboard, then what we're going to do is we're going to force the Xbox to reset. But only once we're happy that this has gone through. Now the machine has powered down there at the end of step 2, so it's going to reset, it's going to reboot. It'll power up to do step 3. Okay, the power has come back on itself, so if you hear a power down tone after step 2, don't panic, it will come back up, and as you can see there, we're now on step 3 of 3. 60%, 6% applying the update, so this is where it's actually going through, unpacking everything, installing it, and leaving our Xbox in a nice state, allegedly. So yeah, this is one that people do tend to find happens to them, particularly if they've been using Instant On. So I figured this one would be a good one to go through. Now while we're waiting for this, another one that people run into is E106. E106 is essentially an out-of-date OSU1 environment. Now if you look in the description, again this is also in the description of the full formatter hard disk drive upgrade tutorial. There is a link in the description of this video also to the latest OSU1 recovery environment for your Xbox, and it's a persistent link, so even if you're watching this video 2 years after publication, that link will still show you the most current OSU recovery environment for your Xbox. Now then, what happens is, unfortunately, if you are on a Dash Insider update, preview program, something like that, then what will happen is the development dashboard that Microsoft sends you will be newer than the production OSU1 recovery tool you can download from Microsoft. And this always puzzles me. I do not understand why a corporation like Microsoft invites users into what is essentially a dev and test program for its latest dashboard and leaves them completely high and dry in the event it stuffs their Xbox, or their Xbox hard disk encounters issues whilst they're on that upgrade program. While ever you're enrolled in that program, you are at risk of basically having your Xbox out of action for a while if that hard disk stuffs up, because you've no way of recovering it until Microsoft pushes that dev and test dashboard that you're testing, that you're previewing, out into production. So the next month, sure enough, once it all gets published, the OSU1 recovery tools are updated at the same time as the dashboard is released, and guess what? You'll be able to upgrade again. Okay, so we're just going to step in here mid-rant and take a look at this. So this is an Xbox error E203. Sometimes this happens during the dashboard reinstallation process. If it happens to you, as it does here, then simply select the Restart This Xbox option. Your Xbox will reboot and hopefully it will pick up back on the same stage at which it left. So as you'll be able to see shortly on our video, the thing picked back up on stage 3 of 3 back at around 26% and ran through all the way to a successful conclusion. So hopefully that's going to be the same for you. So if you do see anything like this, don't panic, choose to restart the Xbox and just let the process continue. Okay, so we've completed the application update. As we can see, step 3 has completed on 100%. Our Xbox is going to reboot now. Once it does, we'll see where our machine is sat. So let's take a look and see. So there's one of 3 things that is going to happen here. Either your Xbox is going to be sat nicely on dashboard. Congratulations. It's going to be sat partially in dashboard. You may see 1 or 2 more icons than you did previously, but the screen may still be predominantly blank. You may see some tiles on there with some strange names. You may see some tiles on there that normally have images on that now don't, and just have some weird text there instead. Or then again, you may find yourself back at the black screen of death with nothing on the display. So in our case, we seem to be sat on a black screen with nothing. So we're going to resync our controller. Okay, our controller has now synced. We're going to reattach the USB. And we can see that we are back at external media storage ready. Okay, so this is what happens more often than not to machines that are left in the instant on mode. More often than not, even once the update completes, you're going to find yourself back at this stage. Now, if you do find that halfway through the procedure of the final step 3 of 3, you get an error message like E203 or something like that, simply allow the Xbox to reboot. It will give you an option to reboot it. Select the reboot option, it will go through and reapply the update, and chances are it'll probably continue on from where it left off. If yours does that, great. As long as it goes through, at the end of the process you will find that, like I say, you'll find one of 3 things. Either you'll see a dashboard, congratulations, you will see a skeleton of a dashboard that looks a bit weird, or you'll see what you continued to see before, i.e. not a lot until you sync the controller and have the USB stick, and then you'll get external device storage ready. And that's it. But now at least we know that we have a successful dash installation on our machine. We know that the OS is indeed on this Xbox as we need it to be. But we also know it ain't working as it should. So what can we do? So we're going to power down our Xbox by tapping the power button and waiting for the light to go out. As I say, the previous, even if your machine went through after the format and install the dash, force it to go from the OS you want tool, let it reinstall. Once you're back here, fine. Even if it's the same as it was before, fine. Don't be tempted to skip it, because we need to ensure we've got a good dash install on this machine, and I'm happy we do. We've just got one or two teething problems. So the reason being, as explained before, is because there's some persistent settings in flash. When your machine boots, it then passes over to hard disk, but your hard disk has nothing of value on there anymore. It doesn't have the required files or settings on hard disk that it was looking for that was there the last time it booted. It's still looking for those things. It's only your hard disk that's changed. The stuff in flash is still there. So because the two don't marry, you end up with a bit of a funky looking thing like this. So we need to get the two to marry back up. So we've removed our USB stick, or if you have, you need to plug it back in. So if you've removed your USB, okay, so at this point our machine is off. If you've removed your OSU1 recovery stick, you're going to want to plug it back in. In our case, we left it in. And what we're going to do is we are going to boot back to recovery, but this time we're only going to press and hold it until we hear the second beep. So we're going to press sync, eject, and we're going to keep those two buttons held. We're going to tap power with our other hand whilst keeping sync and eject held. We'll hear one power up tone as soon as we press the power button, and then 5 to 7 seconds later we're going to hear a second power up tone. Once we hear that second power up tone on this occasion, we're going to release the buttons, and we should see something different on our display. So let's do that now. So we're going to press and hold sync, eject, we're going to tap power. It's one power up tone, keeping sync and eject held. Again, this is something that commonly happens on instant on machines, and that's because your Xbox, believe it or not, has already booted to dash. Now then, if that is you and you're struggling to get your machine to boot back into recovery, power the thing down again. Remove the power once the light has gone out. Okay, release and remove power for 5 seconds and then plug it back in. What that does is that forces the machine to do a clean boot. So rather than resuming, it's going to boot again. So what happens is, if you shut it down and don't remove the power, your machine is still in that instant on mode. It's still running in the background essentially. So when you come to boot it to recovery, the damn thing doesn't work. By removing power, you're forcing the machine to do a completely cold boot. At that point, once it's doing a cold boot, you will get into the recovery environment. So we're going to press sync, we're going to press eject, and we're going to keep those two buttons held. We're going to tap power. We hear one power up tone, keeping sync and eject held. There's a second power up tone, we're going to release the buttons. And now we get this troubleshooter menu. So if your Xbox was or is indeed configured for instant on and you're struggling to get it into recovery mode, remove the power for 5 seconds, plug it back in, and then it'll work. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sync our Xbox controller to our system, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go down to reset this Xbox, restore factory defaults. We're going to remove everything. Now remember, you've already formatted or upgraded your hard disk. You've got nothing on that hard disk of value aside from the basic system files the Xbox is using. So it doesn't matter. Even though it says remove everything, everything's already gone from your Xbox. There's nothing on there of any value, so just go ahead and remove everything. So we've pressed A. Our machine is going to reboot. Okay, so there we go. We're going to get this preparing console screen. Don't worry, it's not going to go through and do a full install again. This is basically like a pre-set up environment. You're going to end up actually at the configuration menu again. So a bit like an out of box state when you first plugged your Xbox in, that's exactly what you're going to see now. So if all goes black, don't panic just yet. There you go, so it's going to come back up and it's going to wear away. So this basically is erasing everything, it's resetting everything back to fresh. So we've reinstalled the dashboard, we've reinstalled the OS in the previous step. What we're now doing is we are completely resetting everything in Flash to back to factory default, and it's basically unpacking everything fresh onto the hard disk. So the contents of the hard disk are fresh, The settings in Flash are fresh. The persistent settings that were preventing our dashboard from starting properly before are going to be cleared after this step, and we are going to have a nice new factory fresh Xbox to play with, hopefully. This time with a hard disk that isn't buggered, or a hard disk with settings that aren't buggered, with no bad sectors, hopefully, if that was you. Or we're going to have an Xbox with a nice new upgraded hard disk with all our settings and dashboard looking exactly as they should. I actually wish the last time I'd done one of these where the dashboard looked a bit funky, I'd actually taken some screen grabs of it, just to show you what I mean, because it does look rather odd. But there we go. So as you can see now, we are back into our configuration menu. This is our first run configuration menu. This is the thing you saw when you first opened it out of the box. If you've got a fairly old Xbox, chances are it looks a bit different the first time you did this. So anyway, we'll run through it and we'll show you we can get back to dashboard. So I'm just going to complete this step. We're in the United Kingdom. Network. Now then, at this point, you're going to put your network settings in. I'm going to go do that off camera. Okay, so my wireless network at home is currently having some issues and the internet seems to be completely down. So I'm going to have to tether my device to my phone. So I'm going to pop this password in off camera. I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so we're going to go away and connect to the network now. Excellent, everything is good. So we're going to skip through this next bit. Update time, you do not need an update. Fantastic. So the console is now going to reboot, so let's reboot it. Okay, so if your console actually stays black there for 30 seconds to a minute, so don't panic, it's actually working away in the background. Then it'll come back to this screen looking like this. So you're going to sign in with your Microsoft account details. You'll have to resync your controller at this point. Once you've done that, you'll be able to skip through to the next part of the procedure. So that's going to be your account details. This is going to be slightly slow on my phone because my broadband connection is letting me down today. Okay, I'm going to pop my account details in here. I'll see you on the next step. Once we've done that, that's going to go away and authenticate at Microsoft End, and hopefully that's going to sign us into our Microsoft account. Okay, then you're going to be asked for your sign-in and security preferences. I'm going to reset this Xbox anyway, so I'm just going to go for no barriers for now. And of course, I would love to use instant sign-in. Speech, but I'm not bothered because this is simply a quick test exercise on this machine. It isn't mine, it's customers, so it's going to get reset again anyway before I finish here. So we're just going to continue through this. Okay, time zone settings, we're going to leave there. We're going to start up an energy saving, not instant on, but of course if you want to go back to instant on, it's entirely up to you. We've got to keep everything up to date. And here we go. So this is the little introductory video we're going to get. We're going to allow this to play through. Okay, I just want to get to the dashboard, thank you very much. And there we go, we're online. And the dashboard is back up, and as you can see there, we have everything we actually need to get started. And the guide is there, look. Down to settings, settings is there. We have all our icons in place, everything looks nice. All of our icons and our buttons are properly labelled. They all look absolutely fine and dandy to me. And that's it. So we're back into the dashboard and everything's working perfectly fine. Just to prove it, what we'll do is we'll power the machine off. Okay, now it's off. We'll power it back up. It's going to sign me in, and there we go. And as you can see, hi Andrew, hello Xbox, and that's it. So as you can see there, if you are indeed facing a black screen after formatting your Xbox hard disk or upgrading it, and you've had it in instant on mode, this should very well cure your issue. So I know that most people don't have it on instant on mode, but those that do, it can be quite disconcerting that everything may have been working perfectly fine if you've upgraded your hard disk, and maybe you've put a nice SSD in there or something, I don't know. And then obviously everything goes through okay, and then you're greeted with absolutely nothing, and believe me, your backside will drop out. But it's absolutely fine, there's nothing to worry about. As you've seen there today, it's very easily rectified, it's very easy to get back on the straight and narrow, and you're ready to go, and your Xbox is in out of box state. So excellent news. Go away and enjoy some gaming. So as always, you know, if you've any questions or any comments at all, feel free to pop them in the comments below, and I'll try and get through as many as I can. I do try to respond to everyone as and when I can. Obviously, what with time and work and everything, it can be a little bit difficult at times, but please bear with me. I do obviously offer repairs out these days. If you're in the UK or the EU, then I will happily give you a quote for service. Hit me up at my business email address. It is YTAndrewPaul@outlook.com. Link for that is below. As I say, if you want to arrange a repair and you're in the EU or the UK, drop me a line there with you know what issues you've experienced in your machine, and I will get back to you with a quote for repair. If you're in the US, I do know a few guys over there who might be able to help you out. So you know, I might not be able to offer service to you personally, but I'll know somebody who can indeed, and will do a good job on your machine for you as well. So you know, sharing the love to all my stateside subs and viewers as well. As always, you know, if you've got any questions, I'd rather they weren't dropped to my business email, because you know it gets quite confusing answering questions alongside trying to organise repairs and things for customers. So I'd rather any questions or comments and things were left either in the comments below. You can send me a private message on YouTube and I'll get back to you there. On Twitter at YTAndrewPaul, so you know, you're more than welcome to send me a private message there. DM box is open to everybody there. You know, like I said, drop me a comment, drop me a question on there, absolutely fine. Business stuff and repair quote requests and things like that to my business email only, please. As always, you've been fantastic. I've been Andy Paul. If there's anything I can do for you, then please feel free to hit me up. I am away next week from the 11th all the way through to the 19th of December. I'm actually going to the States, and believe it or not, I'm going to make an honest woman of my missus over there. So yeah, I'm going to come back a married man. So I will see. It won't be next week. I might try and get another video uploaded so I can put it up online next week, but I won't personally be here. So please sort of do understand, ladies and gentlemen, if things are a little bit slow and me getting back to you next week, it's simply because I'm not here. I don't have sort of data access in the States either, so it's not as if I can, you know, I have my mobile and it's purely going to be on the hotel Wi-Fi when I get back there at the end of the evening. So it might be a little bit slow me getting back to people next week, but please bear with me. Like I said, I think I should be back online fully from the 20th of December, just before Christmas, and yeah, so hopefully if I don't see you all before, you'll have a good Christmas. But like I say, hopefully I'll have another video up and I'll see you guys before then anyway. But as always, I've been Andy Paul. You've been fantastic. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful. Please remember to comment, rate and subscribe if you haven't already. We've got 70 odd videos now on the channel, all with you know, some in-depth hardware, technical repairs, down to some relatively simple software stuff like this. So Xboxes, PlayStations, MacBooks, and we've even got a couple of iPhone videos on there, and a TV repair video from God knows way back when. So there's all sorts on there for pretty much everybody out there who's interested in repairs. So hopefully you'll take the time to view a few of those and subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully you'll learn something today from those. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and for me, it's bye bye for now. Many thanks for watching then, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then why not check out these recommendations below. Also, please remember to comment, rate, and of course subscribe to the channel if you found this useful. We've plenty more content on there, and there's lots more to come.